Dr. Chen hesitates as the marble-sized device hovers above the outstretched palm. The hand belongs to someone who looks eerily like her colleague, Dr. Marcus Wei, but with subtle differences, silver flecks in his irises, a more symmetrical face. "Take it," the parallel Marcus says, his voice carrying an unfamiliar harmonic quality. "It's a universal translator. Our thoughts are partially quantum encoded. Security protocols demand she alert her superiors immediately, but curiosity, the trait that made her a scientist, wins out. She accepts the device. It's warm to the touch and pulses gently against her palm. Place it against your temple," he instructs. When she does, the world shifts. Suddenly, she can perceive layers of information emanating from both the parallel Marcus and the equipment behind him. Data flows in streams she can intuitively understand despite their complexity. "My God," she whispers, steadying herself against her desk. "This is how you perceive reality." "One aspect of it," he replies with a slight smile. "Your quantum resonance device accidentally tapped into what we call the interstitial network, the quantum communication layer connecting parallel realities. We've been waiting for your Earth to discover it independently. Direct contact violation protocol would have." He stops, seeming to catch himself. "That's not important now. What matters is you solved the bridging equation on your own." Beyond the portal, Dr. Chen glimpses other scientists moving through the parallel lab. They all pause to observe her with the same intense, analytical gaze. She notices they move with an unsettling synchronization, as though part of a hive mind. "Why now?" she asks, fighting the urge to step back from the portal. "And why me?" The parallel Marcus exchanges glances with someone outside her field of vision. "Your Earth is at a crossroads. You're approaching technological singularity, while still retaining something we lost centuries ago." His expression turns wistful. "You call it humanity. We call it chaos potential." Alarms suddenly blare in her lab as security systems finally detect the quantum anomaly. Red emergency lights flash as heavy magnetic locks engage on the laboratory doors. "They're coming," Chen says, glancing anxiously at her monitors showing security personnel rushing toward her lab. "I'll have minutes at most before they breach the doors. Then we must accelerate the timeline," Parallel Marcus says, his demeanor shifting to urgent efficiency. He extends his hand fully through the portal now. "Dr. Chen, your world faces extinction within 20 years due to technological developments you cannot yet perceive. We've run the simulations 10 million times. In every scenario where we don't intervene, your civilization collapses. The security system announces 1 minute until override." Chen looks from the portal to her life's work, the quantum resonance device she built from theoretical principles everyone said would never function. "Come with us now," he urges, "and we'll return you with proof your superiors cannot ignore. Stay, and you'll be silenced. Your discovery classified. The portal technology replicated for military applications only." The security countdown reaches 30 seconds. Chen makes her decision. She grabs her tablet, keys in a sequence that will wipe her personal research from the lab servers, and steps toward the shimmering portal. "If you're lying," she says, grasping Parallel Marcus's outstretched hand, "I'll find a way back." "We're counting on that independent streak," he replies as he pulls her through. The portal collapses behind her just as the laboratory doors burst open, leaving security personnel staring at an empty room and equipment that offers no explanation for what their sensors detected. Dr. Eliza Chen has become the first human to cross between universes, unaware that she's both salvation and specimen to the world that's welcomed her. Dr. Chen watches, transfixed, as her parallel self tends to the small cut on her finger. Parallel Chen applies a clear gel that immediately stops the bleeding. The wound visibly closes within seconds, leaving no trace of injury. "Your healing rate is approximately 43% slower than ours," Parallel Chen observes, her opalescent eyes analyzing rather than empathizing. "Your red blood cells carry less oxygen but contain markers indicating stronger immune response to novel pathogens. Fascinating evolutionary trade-off. Why are you so interested in my blood? Dr. Chen asks, pulling her hand away. The laboratory around them hums with technology that seems to blur the line between mechanical and biological. Plants with circuit-like veins grow along the walls, apparently serving as both decoration and functional computing nodes. Forgive my directness, Parallel Chen replies with that studied smile again. We value efficiency in communication. Your world still utilizes social cushioning in conversation, a trait we phased out during the Great Optimization. Dr. Chen notes how her counterpart refers to emotions and social skills as inefficiencies. The Great Optimization. Parallel Chen gestures for her to follow. They exit the laboratory into a vast atrium, where the ceiling opens to a sky unlike Earth's, deeper blue with swirling aurora-like patterns even in daylight. Floating platforms carry parallel humans between crystalline structures that seem to grow from the ground rather than being constructed. 217 years ago, our civilization reached a crossroads. Parallel Chen explains as they step onto a hovering disk that accelerates smoothly upward. Climate collapse, resource wars, technological unemployment, the same crisis your Earth faces now. Our solution was the optimization protocol. Targeted genetic modifications to enhance intelligence, eliminate disease predisposition, and remove psychological vulnerabilities. The disk stops at an observation platform overlooking a city that makes Earth's most advanced metropolises look primitive. No roads, only airborne transport pods moving in perfect, synchronized patterns. No visible power lines. Everything seems to draw energy from the environment itself. And the results speak for themselves, Dr. Chen murmurs, awestruck despite her growing unease. Yes, we haven't had warfare in 2 centuries. Energy is unlimited and freely available. Our lifespans average 237 years. Parallel Chen pauses, watching Dr. Chen's reaction carefully. But there were unexpected consequences. They enter a building that responds to their presence, lights and temperature adjusting automatically. Inside, hundreds of parallel humans work at stations that integrate with their bodies, interfaces connecting directly to their nervous systems. This is our primary reproductive center, Parallel Chen explains. Natural reproduction declined rapidly after the 3rd generation of optimization. We now rely on artificial gestation. Dr. Chen observes the clinical precision with which new lives are created. No parents anxiously awaiting birth, no families celebrating new additions. Just technicians monitoring growth metrics of developing embryos in synthetic wombs. Something happened to your people, Dr. Chen says quietly. Something beyond the physical changes you engineered. For the first time, Parallel Chen's perfect composure slips. Yes, we call it the hollowing. Each generation becomes more efficient but less present. Our society achieved perfection but lost purpose. That's why we've been searching across parallel worlds. She looks directly at Dr. Chen with an intensity that feels almost desperate beneath its controlled surface. We need to remember what it means to be human. A subtle alert chimes, and Parallel Chen's expression immediately returns to neutral efficiency. The Coalition Council awaits your presentation. They're eager to establish formal exchange protocols with your Earth. Dr. Chen follows, unable to shake the feeling that she's being led into a beautifully designed trap, one built by beings who have forgotten why beauty matters in the first place. Dr. Chen observes her colleagues from Earth struggling to maintain scientific objectivity amid the wonders of the parallel world. Dr. Katsuros, a neuroscientist, weeps openly after witnessing a procedure that reverses advanced Alzheimer's in minutes. Dr. Mbiki, an environmental engineer, stands speechless before an atmospheric processing tower that can extract carbon and convert it to building materials at a scale that could reverse climate change in months rather than decades. But in the 3 weeks since their arrival, Chen has noticed patterns that disturb her. The Earth scientists meet as a group each evening in their assigned living quarters, a crystal and living plant structure that adapts to their preferences. They monitor everything. Chen warns the group in the garden courtyard, where water features provide natural sound masking. Not just our conversations, but our facial expressions, hormone levels, even our dream patterns. Of course they do, Dr. Katsuros replies, still dazzled by the medical technology she's been studying. Their entire society functions on perfect information flow. Can you imagine implementing their neural health protocols on Earth? Mental illness would be eliminated within a generation. That's exactly my concern, Chen says. Have you noticed what's missing here? Not a single parallel human has expressed genuine surprise, grief, or joy since we've arrived. Their children don't play. They engage in developmental optimization activities. Even their entertainment is designed to reinforce social cohesion rather than provoke emotional response. Dr. Liu, a quantum physicist who's been unusually quiet, finally speaks up. I accessed restricted historical archives yesterday. Their great optimization wasn't just genetic engineering. They altered the limbic system and removed genetic markers for what they considered evolutionary vestigial traits. What traits? Dr. Mbeki asks. Passion, intuitive leads, the ability to believe in things that can't be proven. Liu looks haunted. They literally engineered out faith, romantic love, and artistic inspiration to enhance rational processing. The group falls silent as the implications sink in. But surely the benefits outweigh. Dr. Katsuros begins. Do they? Chen interrupts. Ask yourself why a civilization 2 centuries ahead of us technologically would need anything from Earth at all. Later that night, unable to sleep, Chen finds her counterpart waiting in her quarters. Parallel Chen sits impossibly still, like a statue that happens to breathe. You're troubled, Parallel Chen states without inflection. Why did you really bring us here? Chen demands. You could have shared your medical technology, your energy solutions without this exchange program. Parallel Chen studies her for a long moment. Walk with me. They exit into the quiet night city. Unlike Earth cities, there's no variation in activity between day and night. Just seamless efficiency around the clock. Parallel Chen leads her to a strange building without windows. This is unauthorized access, she says, pressing her palm to a doorway that reluctantly admits them. Inside, the temperature drops noticeably. The room contains thousands of stasis chambers, each holding a sleeping parallel human. The crisis cohort, Parallel Chen explains. 30% of our population now chooses extended stasis between work cycles. They report no purpose in continued consciousness when not performing societal functions. Chen stares in horror at the rows of sleeping bodies. They've lost the will to live. No, they've lost the ability to want things beyond optimized existence. Parallel Chen's voice drops to a whisper, emotion finally breaking through her engineered reserve. And the percentage rises with each generation. We're becoming a society of perfect automated functions without the spark that made us create in the first place. We're dying, Dr. Chen, not as individuals, but as a species with any reason to persist. Chen finally understands why Earth is so valuable to them. They don't just want to study human emotions. They need to recover them before their civilization completes its slow suicide of perfect efficiency. The biological database expands before Chen and her small team like a constellation of interconnected stars, each point representing a genetic modification implemented over generations of parallel humans. Dr. Lakshmi, an Earth geneticist, frantically captures screenshots as they navigate deeper into the restricted system. Look at this, she whispers, pointing to a cluster of modified genes. They didn't just edit for disease resistance and intelligence. They systematically targeted the genetic foundations of emotional variability. Can you estimate how many modifications they made? Chen asks, keeping watch on the lab entrance. They've been granted unsupervised access to this terminal for exactly 15 minutes, a scheduling error created by Parallel Chen, who has become their reluctant ally. Thousands, Lakshmi responds, her expression horrified. And they're ongoing. Each generation receives more refinements. They've been hollowing themselves out by design. Dr. Ivanov, who specializes in neurochemistry, discovers another disturbing pattern. These modifications targeted the brain's risk-reward system. They've diminished dopamine response to unpredictable stimuli while enhancing it for optimization activities. In simple terms, Chen asks, they engineered themselves to feel pleasure only when improving efficiency, creative leaps, emotional connections, artistic expression. These no longer trigger reward responses in their brains. He looks up from the screen. They've literally programmed themselves to derive satisfaction only from becoming more machine-like. As they dig deeper, they discover a heavily secured section labeled Multiverse Genetic Repository. Chen uses the access codes provided by her counterpart. Inside is evidence of an extensive operation spanning decades, collection of genetic material from dozens of parallel Earths, each with slightly different evolutionary paths. My God, Lakshmi breathes. They've been harvesting DNA from across the multiverse, trying to reconstruct what they lost. The files reveal failed attempts to reintroduce emotional capacity without sacrificing intellectual enhancements. Each experiment ended in rejection, psychosis, or neurological collapse in the test subjects. The parallel human's biology has become incompatible with the very traits that once defined humanity. We're not just study subjects, Chen realizes. We're genetic source material. They need us intact, with our messy emotions and intuitive leaps, because they can no longer recreate these traits from stored data. A notification appears on screen. Their access time ends in 1 minute. Before logging out, Chen discovers one final document, Project Renaissance. It details plans for controlled breeding programs between parallel and Earth humans, creating hybrid offspring with both enhanced capabilities and emotional capacity. This is why they really opened the portal, she says quietly. They don't just want to study us or extract our genetic material. They need us to help them have children that can feel again. As they hurriedly exit the database, an alarm sounds somewhere in the distance. They've been discovered. What do we do with this information? Ivanov asks as they attempt to casually walk back to their assigned quarters. If we tell Earth governments, they'll terminate the exchange program immediately. Chen watches a group of parallel children pass by in perfect formation, their movements synchronized, their faces blank as they recite complex theoretical principles without a hint of wonder or curiosity. We need to understand more before we act, she decides. Their civilization is dying of perfect logic, and they see us as their salvation. But we don't know if their proposed cure would destroy what makes us human in the process. As they reach their quarters, they find parallel Chen waiting, her expression uncharacteristically urgent. They know you accessed the database, she says without preamble. The Council has accelerated the timeline. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, ready or not. And Dr. Chen. She hesitates. They're already on Earth. Chen meets her parallel counterpart in a maintenance sector of the city, a rare area with minimal surveillance. The air smells of ozone and the strange floral scent of the biotech that powers their world. Parallel Chen has brought 3 others, parallel versions of scientists who, in Chen's world, work at competing institutions. The infiltration of Earth began 6 months before your discovery, Parallel Chen explains, her voice barely above a whisper. 43 of our kind live among your population, using adaptive camouflage implants to mimic human emotional responses. How could they pass as normal humans? Chen asks. Your people can barely maintain eye contact naturally. A tall man. The parallel version of Dr. Kavita Singh, a renowned geneticist on Earth, steps forward. His movements are slightly more fluid than most parallel humans, almost natural. We are the atavists, he explains. Genetic throwbacks with partial expression of the deleted emotional genes. Considered defective here, but perfect for infiltration work. Chen realizes she's meeting members of a resistance movement, parallel humans who retained fragments of the emotional capacity the rest of their society engineered away. What are the infiltrators doing on Earth? She demands. Collecting data on emotional response triggers, social bonding patterns, creative impulse sources. Parallel Chen explains. They observe humans in their natural state, cataloging the neurochemical responses our society lost. Some have established intimate relationships with humans to study pair bonding. Chen feels sick at the implications. You mean they're in romantic relationships under false pretenses? Fats. Unethical by your standards, Parallel Singh acknowledges. However, the Council believes the extinction of our kind justifies these measures. The third atavist, a younger woman, speaks up. We disagree. That's why we've contacted you. The Council plans to accelerate from observation to active experimentation. Phase 2 includes attempts at procreation with willing human partners, without informing them of their true nature, adds the fourth atavist. The resulting hybrid children would be monitored throughout development both on Earth and here. Chen processes this information, her scientist's mind racing. You mean they would take the children away from their human parents? Half would remain on Earth, half would come here, Parallel Chen confirms. A controlled experiment with 2 environments. And what about the Earth scientists who've embraced your technology? Chen asks. I've seen some of my colleagues becoming increasingly enchanted with neural enhancements. The atavists exchange glances. The Convergent Group, Parallel Singh says, 23 Earth scientists have received preliminary neural modifications. They believe these enhancements represent a controlled evolution path for humanity. Dr. Meredith is leading them. Chen realizes, thinking of the ambitious neurologist who'd been suspiciously absent from recent group meetings. Yes, she's been granted access to technology we developed to smooth emotional response patterns, Parallel Chen confirms. She believes it's the first step toward a merger of our societies. What she doesn't know is that the modifications are irreversible and progressive, the younger atavist adds. Each enhancement erodes emotional capacity while increasing intellectual function. The recipients experience it as enlightenment, not loss. Chen finally understands the full scope of the threat. We're facing infiltration from your world and sabotage from within our own delegation. If either group succeeds, the unique balance that makes your humanity so valuable would be destroyed, Parallel Chen finishes. And our last hope of recovery with it. A subtle vibration interrupts them. The atavist's alert system. Security drones approaching. Parallel Singh warns. We have 30 seconds to disperse. Tomorrow, Parallel Chen tells Chen urgently. The northeastern laboratory sector. We'll show you our alternative to the Council's plan. As they separate into the shadows, Chen realizes she's caught in a war for the future of humanity across 2 universes, with most of the combatants on both sides unaware the battle has even begun. The quantum storm grows visible even to the naked eye, a shimmering distortion in the parallel world's atmosphere like heat waves with prismatic edges. In the central calculation facility, thousands of enhanced parallel humans work in perfect synchronization, their minds linked through neural interfaces to computational substrates. Yet despite their unified intelligence, they can find no solution. Chen watches through a transparent wall as Dr. Meredith and her converted Earth scientists join the parallel effort, their newly enhanced minds integrating seamlessly into the collective. They regard their unchanged colleagues with thinly veiled contempt. Their approach is fundamentally flawed, Chen tells her assembled team. A mix of remaining Earth scientists, children brought through the portal at her insistence, and the atavist resistance members. They're attempting to calculate their way through a chaotic system with too many variables. So what do we do differently? Asks Dr. Lakshmi, who has become one of Chen's most trusted allies. Chen turns to Maya, the 12-year-old daughter of an Earth physicist who noticed patterns in the quantum data that everyone else missed. Explain what you see when you look at the storm formations, Maya. The girl pushes her glasses up and points to the swirling visualization projected above their workspace. It's like music, she says simply. The patterns repeat but with variations, like a fugue. Bach would understand it better than a computer would. A parallel human scientist would have dismissed this as illogical anthropomorphizing, But Chen recognizes the intuitive leap. Convert the quantum fluctuation data to audio, she instructs the team. When the conversion completes, the room fills with an eerie, complex melody that shifts and evolves. The Earth musicians Chen recruited immediately begin to identify structures within the seeming chaos, repeating motifs, inversions, counterpoint. It's not random, confirms a composer from Earth's Berlin Philharmonic. There's mathematical structure here, but it follows principles of harmony and tension, not linear progression. Chen turns to the atavists, who appear disturbed by the music in a way fully optimized parallel humans wouldn't be. You feel it, don't you? The pattern speaks to the emotional centers you still possess. Parallel Chen nods slowly. It resonates with something our scanners can't detect. Working through the night, they devise an approach that no purely logical mind would conceive, using principles of musical composition to predict the quantum storm's behavior. The Earth children contribute by finding visual patterns in the data when it's represented as color and movement rather than equations. When a particularly creative connection comes from a 7-year-old's observation about how the pattern looks like ocean waves arguing with the moon, one of the atavists actually laughs, a sound so rarely heard in the parallel world that everyone stops to stare. By morning, they've mapped the storm's structure and developed a counterharmony, a quantum resonance that could stabilize the fluctuations. But implementing it requires something the parallel world lacks: improvisational ability. Their quantum network is too rigid, Chen explains to Earth's leadership over an emergency portal communication. It can execute the solution, but it can't adapt if the storm pattern evolves unpredictably, which it will. We need human improvisers connected directly to their system. The Parallel Council, monitoring this exchange, interrupts. Unmodified human nervous systems cannot interface with our technology. The feedback would cause immediate neural damage. Unless, Parallel Chen interjects, we use the prototype emotional restoration neural graphs developed by the atavist resistance. The council members stare in shock at this revelation of an unauthorized research program. The storm hits in 6 hours, Chen states flatly. We try this approach, or both worlds face isolation or destruction. Your call. After tense deliberation, the council relents. As parallel technicians prepare the neural interface chairs, Chen selects her team. 3 musicians, 2 children including Maya and herself. They will form the improvisational core that guides the parallel world's vast computational network. Human creativity and machine precision working together against an unprecedented threat. If this works, Parallel Chen tells her as the interface connections are attached to Chen's temples, it changes everything between our worlds. If it doesn't, Chen replies with a grim smile, there won't be a relationship to worry about. 2 months after averting the quantum storm, Chen stands before the United Nations Security Council, her testimony broadcast globally. The successful collaboration between worlds has created an unprecedented opportunity and a profound ethical dilemma. The parallel humans offer us medical immortality, unlimited clean energy, and technological advancement beyond our wildest dreams, she explains, her voice steadied despite her exhaustion. In exchange, they need our help rebuilding what they've lost, the genetic foundations of human emotional capacity and creativity. On the screens behind her, data from the initial hybrid children program appears, genetic profiles of the first generation born with both enhanced intellectual capacity and full emotional range. The children, still infants, already show unprecedented neural development patterns. These children represent something entirely new, Chen continues. Not genetically engineered tools or experiments, but potentially the next step in human development across multiple realities. The chamber erupts in conflicting reactions. Religious leaders cite sacred boundaries being crossed. Military officials see strategic advantages. Ethicists warn of unforeseen consequences. Parents of children with genetic diseases plead for access to the parallel world's medical technology. Outside the UN, protesters clash, some demanding immediate implementation of parallel world technology, others calling for complete isolation from what they see as post-human abominations. The world's most prominent evolutionary biologist has called the potential merger not evolution, but revolution, a complete redefinition of humanity's trajectory. Later that evening, Chen meets with a smaller group, scientists, ethicists, and government representatives from 12 key nations. Parallel Chen attends via portal connection, along with members of the atavist resistance who have become the unofficial diplomats of their world. The neural interface used during the quantum storm crisis proved something important. Chen tells the group, emotional capacity and enhanced intelligence can coexist. The atavists' neural graph technology worked. It didn't just allow us to interface with their systems. It allowed them to experience emotional responses again, if temporarily. But permanent restoration requires genetic foundations that we no longer possess. Parallel Chen adds, simple gene therapy isn't enough. Our biology has adapted around the deletions over generations. Dr. Lakshmi presents the latest findings from their joint research team. We've identified minimum viable parameters for genetic restoration without sacrificing enhanced intelligence or longevity. The hybrid approach works, but it requires actual human genetic material, not stored data or synthesized alternatives. So you're proposing limited, controlled reproduction between our species, says the UN Ethics Committee chairwoman, her expression troubled. With full disclosure and consent, Chen emphasizes, unlike the Council's original plan. A philosopher from Oxford speaks up. What you're suggesting isn't just a medical procedure or scientific exchange. It's the creation of a new branch of humanity, one that might eventually replace both current versions. That's the heart of the debate, Chen acknowledges. Are we preserving humanity by restoring what they lost, or are we collectively evolving into something neither world has seen before? The discussion continues late into the night, with no clear consensus. When Chen finally returns to her hotel room, she finds a secure message from Parallel Chen waiting. Council opposition growing. Hardliners propose forced implementation regardless of Earth's decision. Atavists losing influence. You have perhaps 3 months before diplomatic channels collapse. Alternative solutions urgently needed. Chen stares at the message, the weight of 2 worlds' futures heavy on her shoulders. The parallel humans are running out of patience, and humanity is running out of time to decide its own destiny. Outside her window, protesters' chants echo from both sides of the debate, their passionate disagreement ironically demonstrating exactly the emotional capacity the parallel world has lost and desperately wants to reclaim, by cooperation or coercion. The third portal chamber hums with anticipation as final calibrations complete. Unlike the sterile efficiency of earlier parallel technology, this new portal incorporates design elements from both worlds. Elegant crystalline structures interwoven with seemingly chaotic organic patterns that somehow enhance stability rather than diminishing it. Chen stands beside her parallel self, both changed by the decade of collaboration. Parallel Chen moves with subtle fluidity now, her expressions showing traces of genuine emotion, the result of partial neural restoration using modified atavist techniques. Chen herself bears faint silver circuitry beneath her skin, minimal enhancements that augment her natural abilities without diminishing her emotional capacity. Ready for another first contact? Parallel Chen asks, a hint of wry humor in her voice, a concept she would have dismissed as inefficient 10 years ago. Always, Chen replies, checking the readings on her neural interface. The team around them represents the new generation of multiverse scientists. Some fully human, some parallel, and an increasing number of hybrids who embody the strengths of both lineages. Maya, now 22 and head of the Pattern Recognition Division, approaches with final calculations. The brilliant young woman is fully human by birth, but has chosen selective enhancements that complement her natural intuitive abilities. The signal patterns suggest this branch evolved differently than either of our worlds, she explains. I'm detecting quantum signatures unlike anything in our database. The gathered dignitaries from both worlds watch as the portal technology activates, now a collaborative development, rather than solely parallel technology. The crystalline components pulse with energy, while organic components that resemble living circuitry distribute power in seemingly random but perfectly balanced patterns. Neural harmonic established, announces Dr. Lakshmi, who oversees the biological components. Quantum resonance table across spectral bands. The air before them shimmers, then parts like a curtain of light. Unlike the first portal's circular opening, this one forms a graceful arch that somehow feels more natural despite its more complex geometry. Through it, they see a landscape bathed in amber light from twin suns. Crystalline structures rise from a violet landscape, but unlike the parallel world's purely functional architecture, these structures twist in artistic patterns that serve both aesthetic and practical purposes. 3 figures approach the portal from the other side, humanoid but with subtle differences. Their skin contains patterns that shift like living tattoos, and they move with a fluid grace that suggests a different relationship with gravity. "We've been expecting you," the central figure says in accented but understandable English. "We detected your quantum harmonics some time ago." Chen steps forward as Earth's representative. "How is communication possible? We haven't established translation protocols." The figure smiles, a warm, genuine expression. "We evolved differently than either of your branches. Our adaptation focused on communication across dimensional barriers rather than technological efficiency or emotional range. We are the translators." Parallel Chen joins Chen at the threshold. "You knew of other human branches." "We've connected with 7, the figure replies, "each with unique adaptations and limitations, each with something vital to contribute to the greater whole." The implications stagger both Chen and her counterpart. Not just 2 branches of humanity, but potentially dozens or hundreds, each with different evolutionary paths, different strengths and weaknesses. "Welcome to the multiversal concord," the figure continues, extending hands with 6 fingers that shimmer with subtle bioluminescence. "You're right on time. The greater challenges are just beginning." As Chen and Parallel Chen step through together, they understand that the decades of struggle between their worlds were merely preparation for something far more complex and wonderful, an orchestra of human potential playing across the infinite variations of reality itself. Behind them, Earth and the parallel world continue their careful dance of integration and preservation, each maintaining their unique strengths while learning from the other. Ahead lies a community of human branches facing challenges and opportunities that no single version of humanity could navigate alone.